Look at this. It's a sleeping creature. Columbina is so interesting that she even attracts a kitty cat. Anyways, Columbina's animations with her idols and whatnot is pretty good. But yeah, I got early access to Columbina. How exciting. Now, first of all, since this is the creator server, keep in mind that, exact numbers and, minor things potentially might end up being different in the live version of the game. But yes, Columbina is finally here, and there's a lot of things to cover potentially. I think I want to focus on mostly just having fun with this character, right? Like, my fundamental philosophy with Genshin characters is try to find where their kit is unique and how that makes interesting teams built around their specific kit. And oh boy, does Columbina have an interesting kit. I can only walk around in this little area, so let's go teleport out and show you something. Hello there. This is actually editing Saluna from the future. I originally wanted this video to be, simple. And okay, it's just easier if I show you. So right there is the section of the video you already watched. And then I wanted to yap about the kit because, I wanted to explain Columbina's kit to you. But, you see that big highlighted portion? Yeah, that's me basically yapping for literally an hour straight about Columbina's kit. That's a lot. I'm gonna remove most of that and just keep in like some yap about the weapons and her artifacts and then a couple other minor things in favor of focusing on all this over here, because this right here, this is all like me testing a bunch of fun teams with her. So anyways, you can skip ahead with the timestamps if you want. I myself am going to watch other creators' videos, and I will link them in the description as a resource for you. I want to just focus on what I am having the most fun with, which is just playing Columbina in different teams. This. Also, it's 5 a.m. and I want to get this video done and be able to sleep like this lady. Oh yes, in case you didn't do the Archon quest, she does, have a custom walking animation, which is a new thing for a Genshin character. I don't think there's anyone that has had a custom walk like this before. In some testing, I have found that in general, I would say like stuff like her jump, I believe is just straight up slower. I have not found any movement tech. It's very visually pleasing, but overall, her movement, the only notable special thing about it is her dash like this is a little bit faster than normal characters' dashes. But she definitely has a very, very unique feel and is very floaty, but floaty in a good way. When you press her skill, just has a nice little animation, and then it also applies hydro every 2 seconds. You can see a little pulse of hydro. It's not a super big radius, but it does follow your character around, and it just automatically attacks any enemies that are within range. So you can see, right? What does it look like? Ow. Don't die. Look like that. You can see if we go outside of range, it doesn't attack, but as soon as we go in range, you can see it ticks again. That ticks every couple seconds, and you can see there's a hydro particle that gets generated. It is a little bit of RNG particle generation, which is a little annoying for getting her burst back consistently. In her burst animation, well, okay, I meant to show you her burst animation, but that's what it looks like without the actual animation playing. You can see it puts a little field on the ground, and there is a buff that you get from this, both from Columbina's passive and then directly from the scaling of her ability. You get damage bonus for lunar damage. All right, there you go. That is her animation. So yeah, she opens her eyes, crazy. Yeah, by the way, this is reminding me how much Genshin's pretty aesthetically pleasing when you turn off the UI, but anyways. Let me run away from this enemy for a second while we go talk about some other things. But Columbina is definitely not just a hydro damage dealer. No. She is actually both a hydro damage dealer, a geo damage dealer, an electro damage dealer, and a dendro damage dealer, technically. Mostly, she's actually not a hydro DPS. Functionally, her hydro is mostly just applying hydro in, enabling the lunar reaction. There's, of course, Lunar Charge, right, which was introduced with Ineffa's release. There was Lunar Bloom introduced with Lauma. And then we have, with this patch, with Geo and Columbina's introduction, Lunar Crystallize, a new Geo reaction. And, yeah, this is a Geo reaction that gets to do actual damage, so there's reason to have elemental mastery on geo units now, which I really like as someone who's liked doing all kinds of funny elemental mastery builds on characters in the past. I really like this. Ow. No, don't give it. Wait, what happens when she dies? It revives her, right? Yeah, she revives herself. Yeah. I almost forgot about that. So she has a exploration passive, which this only exists in Not Cry, and it can happen every 100 seconds. If you have a character that dies while in Not Cry, But all you really need to know is that for her skill talent damage, for the whatever lunar talent damage it is, it will do corresponding damage based on whatever else you have going on. And it doesn't mention it in her kit, but the damage for her lunar talent damage will happen about every 6 seconds. Now, Columbina is a Catalyst user, and she's a 5-star character, so they're releasing a new 5-star weapon for her. But let me introduce you to her signature weapon. Yep, she really wants to burst every rotation. HP is really good for her, and that means Prototype Amber is just really good for her. There are teams that I really like with Columbina that I'm going to show that use weapons other than Prototype Amber. The difference with Columbina's 5-star signature weapon rather than her craftable signature weapon is that this weapon gives a little bit less HP, it gives less energy, but the energy doesn't require bursting to get a whole bunch of crit damage. That is the difference that this is. And it's very good for Columbina. I think having Columbina be able to be a healer is genuinely, in my opinion, more valuable. I think a lot of players like staying alive. Fav is Fav, and you know, she has energy needs, and then your other teammates in the team have energy needs, and then also she is an HP scaling catalyst damage dealer. Thrilling Tales of Dragon Slayers, 3-star weapon, you get attack to your on-fielder unit, and then you get 35% HP for Columbina. This is potentially pretty good on her. But again, it comes back down to energy needs. For artifacts, if you want a universal build option, I think you should use 4-piece Silken Moon Serenade. But there is a new artifact option releasing with Columbina that you probably saw from the live stream. This artifact set, the 2-piece increases EM, and then the 4-piece bonus gives lunar damage bonus from off-field. So again, this is equivalent to, you know, EM, but only for the equipper. And it's for off-field damage specifically. So this isn't very good for on-field Columbina. If you're going to do on-field Columbina, you probably want to make Night Skies Unveiling work. The problem with this set is Columbina has heavy ER needs, and then there's a lot of context where you'd say pair Columbina and Ineffa together, and you have situations where let's use Flins as a simple example, right? Where you'd have Flins as the on-field DPS on this set, right? And then you have Silken Moon Serenade. Probably would put someone on this set because Ineffa also is a lunar damage dealer for off-field, right? So this buffs Ineffa a whole bunch, and you want someone on this set. So you can kind of pick who you want, ultimately, right? Like, Columbina's damage is good enough that you can put Ineffa on Serenade and then put Columbina on this set, and that's fine. Yeah, you can build her on Serenade, and this is what I'm going to do on main account. I will farm the new set, both for her and for Ineffa, and in the team context where I specifically am playing her in a way that her damage matters much more for the whole team's performance, I'll put her more on a damage maximized build. But it's going to have to be context where her energy needs are lower, in my opinion, to make that worthwhile. It's important to acknowledge you're not literally always playing a character in context where they need to do the most damage possible, right? And just on a casual enjoyment level, maybe you want to farm the new artifacts for her. But if you want my generic recommendation where you never have to think about it and she works well, it's going to be ER Timepiece, HP Goblet, Crit Circlet, and if you're using Prototype Amber, around 190 ER is, generally speaking, about the worst it will get. But it's worth mentioning that I'm going to show you a team later that her energy needs will essentially be nothing. If you want a universal build, it's you balance around the worst case scenario, Serenade build with a whole bunch of ER with Prototype Amber. But you can get more value out of Columbina's personal damage contribution since she is a damage dealer, not just a buffer, by building her on different artifact sets, different weapons. I want to emphasize that. Okay, enough yapping about her kit, let's get into playing some actually fun teams with her. And the first unit that I want to use with Columbina, believe it or not, is Noelle. The reason I picked Noelle is because I wanted to showcase Lunar Crystallize, of course. Now, Lunar Crystallize, you know, Columbina enables the reaction on her own, so you can play it within a Geo unit. The interesting thing with Lunar Crystallize is because it's, you know, a reaction that does damage based on your Geo application. This is the first time we've ever had to really care about how much Geo application characters have. But basically, as soon as you have the reaction being triggered, and this is only, you know, Geo on Hydro, not Geo on any other element. You have these 3 little moons that happen on the ground, right? And then every 3 instances of a crystallize that happens, you will get the little pillars here firing away. So you can see they do little 3 lasers, and you have to have 3 crystallizes that happen before they will fire again, right? The important thing to remember, as long as you have enough Hydro on the enemy, every 3 instances of Geo, and this is not every Geo attack, this is every 3 instances of Geo application. But the reason I've chosen Noelle is Noelle actually has a special thing with her burst, right? She gets a Geo infusion from her burst. She always applies the Geo element on her attacks. This means every single time you do a normal attack that lands with Hydro on the enemy, you will get a Lunar Crystallize reaction. And so every 3 normal attacks, essentially, you get the lasers going. So let me go use this team for real. And in this team, I did find that I needed double Hydro in order to keep up with the Geo application. You know what? I realized I want to show the new enemy here with this team. So let's make sure we do... I probably should have done the Geo application first, but whatever. We could do like this to start the reaction going, right? And we'll EE. Oh, I need energy. There we go. We're fine. Where are you, sir? It's going to do a shield, I think. Right, and you can see... every single normal attack, as long as it has Hydro, we trigger a Lunar Crystallize. You should be able to see it on screen. And we're triggering the lasers fairly regularly, right? Now, Noelle's a little bit weird to get used to, but we're doing pretty good damage. I did use this team in Abyss, and I cleared Abyss without a problem. This is just meant to demonstrate that there is interesting synergy and reason to think about Lunar Crystallize damage in the team and how much Geo application a character has. On my main account, I have Chiori, and I have struggled to get value from her because I don't have certain units like Zhongli or Albedo that enable more team options for her. And having a Hydro unit that enables Chiori's kit to fully work is really cool. And you can certainly use other Geo units such as Navia here. And I'm using Shalonit, of course, because I need healing. When we don't have Noelle. We could technically just do Prototype Amber, but anyways, it is important to remember with... oh, I forgot to check Navia's build, but it is important to remember that Navia has a kit, right, where you need Crystallize happening to, like, fuel her skill, right? Bam. Yeah, I think she has very low crit rate, so ignore Navia's damage, whatever. You can see she's still generating bullets, though. Navia's kit was updated, so she can get her bullets anytime Lunar Crystallize happens, and yeah, even with her having no crit, you can see the enemy's almost dead. By the way, on the topic of, like, main DPS Geo units, Jibai was announced for the second half of the patch. I will have a separate video coming out about her, but it's safe to say, though, like, I do think Columbina is really fun to have for Geo units. I've messed with stuff with Ningguang that I enjoyed too. I just had the thought, this was not planned. Noelle has really big AoE when you have her burst active, right? I want to see here if the Lunar Crystallize reaction will trigger more in AoE functionally, because, like, it should be every 3 reactions can trigger the thing, right? And if we're hitting 3 enemies at once that all have Hydro on them, that theoretically means, like, every single normal attack we do with Noelle theoretically should, you know, trigger the reactions. Let's see. Alright, bam. Bam. And let's just spin to win, I suppose. It's kind of hard to tell what's going on. I think the 11Ks, 12Ks, yeah, the big numbers are definitely Columbina damage. I think it was working. Alright. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is working. As long as the enemy, when the enemies aren't dead, when they're actually near me, right? I got my energy sucked away, it's not ideal. Yeah, we are triggering the reaction a whole bunch. Okay. Yeah, it does scale up in AoE. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, you can see the lasers are firing off way more rapidly. Okay. Yeah, so it does scale in AoE. Or it's not, okay, it's weird. It's not that it scales in AoE, okay? Because, like, the little things that it fires at the enemies are single target damage. But you can trigger more of the reaction in total in AoE, and that will increase the, like, frequency for how often it triggers functionally. So it scales in AoE in a weird way where it does single target damage, but you get more single target damage in AoE. I don't know, that's a really cool nuance, I would say. And also, as far as, like, the construct thing for Chiori, Zhongli also has an interesting construct synergy in his kit. And what that is any constructs that are around his range of his pillar, you can see now you're getting the same, like, square radius effect that triggers, and you get functionally additional Geo application out of it. So, like, Zhongli is a more interesting character now, like, to build teams around this gimmick. Like I kind of want Zhongli on my main account. I don't have him. I never had that much desire for him before. But yeah, anyways, you can see that's a bunch of ticks of all of Zhongli's damage, technically. And it also is more Geo application, more reaction triggers, more damage, and I don't know. Like, I think it's really freaking cool. I think it's really cool that this character enables a completely new way of considering, thinking about, and playing Geo units. I don't really care whether or not it enables 1 quadrillion DPS teams. I don't care. I don't need it to doom a weak level damage, right? I just want it to be... Are her eyes supposed to be open when her thing is off? Sorry, I got distracted. I think the synergy with Columbina and Geo is really cool. It's probably my favorite part about her kit at a baseline. Maybe I'll get bored of it eventually, to be clear, right? I don't know. I really like fun, unique aspects to characters' kits, and, you know, Columbina has a lot going on with her, but I think Lunar Crystallize is probably my favorite thing about her. When I get her on my main account, I suspect this will be my favorite team with her, but I'll have to mess around with it more. But we gotta do something with my boy Flins. I can tell you from testing, Flins' new best team is Ineffa, Columbina, Flins, and Sucrose, and that team is very good. Oh yeah, there's a new artifact set that I do have on Durin for Hexeride DPS characters, which gives a bunch of attack percent, and then 20% crit rate even for off-field characters like Durin. The builds I have on these characters are pretty good compared to the other teams I have tried. Probably should have started with Durin earlier, but let's see. Do that. And we should get through the shield. There we go. Okay, and then we'll do this. Yep. And now we can do a real rotation. And bam, and burst on you. Do we have enough energy? I might have enough energy to do this. That might have been greeting a little bit. It's a little bit risky to big burst on Flynn sometimes, but I think I can do it. That may be a privilege of his signature weapon, to be honest. All right, there we go. Nice. You can see this team does really good damage. I like this team a lot. Is it a little bit more fragile than an Ineffa team without a shielder? Yeah. But, like, I don't know. I really enjoy Flins without a shielder because he has, like, 6 seconds of downtime in his C0 kit where you can kind of just focus on dodging the enemy. But also, this team just has a lot of stagger anyways. You can see, like, we barely have to think about things. This team is obviously doing, really well. And Fischl with Hexeride bonus, right, is giving 180 EM with C6 Fischl. She's giving 180 EM to herself and the on-fielder and 45% attack because we have Overload and Lunar Charge being triggered. And I'm even going to feature it again against the new enemy. Now this enemy is incredibly tanky. And the way this thing works is going to go into a shield briefly here. Yep, right there. And then we can burst. Okay. Yeah, it has a little shield up there. Basically, you really, really want a Lunar damage team to handle this thing. I probably should have switched to Flynn sooner than that. But yeah, you can see Flynn's in this team with Columbina's damage at the top. It should be more than enough at Fearless difficulty. And it takes a chunk of damage, and then we can just play normally from here. Brap. Oops, I just went into damage mode by accident. I don't know, whatever. We'll see how it goes. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we're chilling. Alright, do that. Okay. Yeah, if it seems like we're not doing very much damage based on the HP bar, we're doing a ton of damage. It's just that this thing again is bonkers tanky. And I do think, again, you will get a better score with... Oops, I should stop yapping and actually play. You will get a better score with Ineffa Sucrose and if you play well and everything, but I don't know. This is a lower investment. Wait, is it a lower investment team? No, it's not. It's about the same investment technically as far as 5 stars, but I don't know. I think there's a non-zero amount of people that like might be like, okay, I don't have Ineffa currently and I want to get Columbina for my Flins, but like I heard that Ineffa is better for Flins than Columbina. But if you got Durin, I think you should, like most players, not characters, unless you're a character, I don't know. I'm pretty sure most players would be completely happy with this. No, like again, this is well invested, but that was me yapping brain off gameplay. I had plenty of time to spare. But ultimately, this was maybe a little bit too focused on Flins. I do want to showcase something with Ineffa because the Ineffa Columbina combo is very strong. Specifically, I want to showcase with Raiden. And you probably think I mean a C2 Raiden. No. I'm going to use C0 Raiden with Engulfing Lightning, to be clear, against the boss that you just saw with Flins. And I'm going to clear with Raiden, Columbina, and Ineffa, and this is going to be weird, I know. Chevreuse C6 specifically. Now, for what it's worth, I think technically the Columbina and Ineffa combo is so strong that the best option on this team is probably just using Sucrose. But the special thing, though, about this team isn't really the last slot. Like, I played around with different last slot teammates depending on how much damage I wanted Raiden to deal. The interesting thing with Raiden here, though, is that Raiden has a kit that refunds energy when you burst on Raiden, right? In Columbina's kit, a lot of her damage potential in a solo Hydro team is functionally suppressed because she has such high energy needs. Well, when you play Raiden with Columbina, even if she is solo Hydro, her energy needs go down to very, very low. This means you don't need to use Prototype Amber. In fact, you can use something like, say, Sacrificial Jade. To be clear, building her on this is a little bit awkward because it gives her so much crit. If you have R5, it's even better, of course. But I'm going to show you with R1. And we're going to have Ineffa on the new artifact set, and Columbina as well, right? So we're actually double dipping on the new artifact set. So this is not something a lot of people are going to be able to replicate for a while. And Columbina's build is going to be overcapped on crit rate by 2%. Oh well, live with it. But Columbina only has a tiny bit of ER here, right? And I don't even think she actually needs that. I just happen to have it. And then I'll let Raiden's build be a surprise. I need like a tiny bit more damage. I thought I could do that without leveling Columbina's skill and burst anymore, and I think I could, but it's just like RNG optimization at this point, and that's not fun. And 9, just so she's up to par to everyone else. Yay, there we go, got it. That didn't take very long. I tried for way too long to do that with Columbina's talents at level 6. That's with Raiden on a Serenade DPS oriented build. I hope you enjoyed that little showcase. I really, really love the synergy between Raiden and Columbina. Like, the point of this isn't to make Raiden do the most damage possible, right? The point of this is to use the unique synergy between Raiden and Columbina and the fact that Columbina is just doing a bunch of off-field damage. And one thing that's going to wait until my main account is I want to experiment with putting Lauma in the team instead of Chevreuse, for example. And with Lauma, by the way, I don't think Ineffa is required here. But the idea there is, right, like, Raiden only needs to take, like, I don't know, 7 seconds. She only needs to take as much time on fielding to be able to refund the bursts on characters, right? And so my thinking is the gameplay dynamic can be, you know, like burst on Raiden when you have Lauma and you have Dendro reactions going on the team, you have Hyper Blooms being triggered, but then after you're done bursting on Raiden, you do charge attacks on Columbina with Verdant Dews, right? So it's like a hybrid Electro Charge DPS Columbina and a like Dendro main DPS like quick swappy team. Anyways, I think there's fun things to experiment around. Now, before we do main DPS Columbina, as a point of reference to compare, I want to show Nefer as well. And the interesting thing here, right, is like as I mentioned before, what is happening? There you go. Okay, that took way longer than I would expect it to normally get the burst there. This enemy has the energy refunding mechanic, right? So we have these extra Verdant Dews, right? Which means we don't have to wait at all for Nefer. Like, normally you have to wait for one Verdant Dew. You just don't have to anymore, which is pretty significant on top of the most notable aspect, which is Lauma making the team do a lot more damage because she makes Columbina do a lot more damage. Like, Nefer herself is not actually doing that much more, like, as far as like the damage number you see on screen, right? It really is just like Columbina's additional damage, and then the fact that you can output the damage faster and get the hold E from Lauma, right? So, anyways, this absolutely brings Nefer team DPS, and she does the same for Flins when you play optimally, up to like Moika level. But ultimately, enemy context is what matters more. I just did a stupid. I just tapped E on Lauma. Oh well. You'll see the difference of if you do that. We're probably gonna run out of Lauma buff is what's gonna happen. I've done a bad job at picking up the leaf, but anyways, oh my god. Okay, I should have killed it before the shield went up. That's so bad. Columbina doesn't do anywhere near as much for Nefer without Lauma, unfortunately. But what about main DPS Columbina versus Nefer? So, I'm going to do main DPS Columbina with and without Lauma here. Alright, for the non-Lauma team, I'm going to be using Nahida. A lot of people have Nahida, and she will be on Deepwood, of course. Aino will be on 4-piece Serenade, and Kuki will be on a, Hyper Bloom build. Aino is wanted here, by the way, because extra Hydro application means more Bloom Core generation equals more damage. That's just Yoli Hyper Bloom thing. More Hydro equals good. Columbina's Hydro application is relatively slow, and then also, she's a non-cry character. Enabling Ascendant Gleam is important if you want the artifact set to give the full crit rate value. And we're going to use my favorite Dorito to test this one. Okay, do this. I probably should have funneled those particles. Oh well, I guess we'll see if it matters. I probably should have just started with Hydro application in general first, but... Alright, you can see, yeah, wow, 19k. We're going to do 30k on a charge attack. And it's enough to kill this in a rotation. Like, this would comfortably clear Abyss, in my experience. I would not have a problem. It's a Hyper Bloom team, right? Like... We didn't even finish doing our charge attacks there, right? It does good damage. But obviously you saw that Columbina's personal damage itself was not incredible. This is the one context, though, where I think demonstrating what her SIG weapon will do is important. Alright. Charge attack. You can see, that's a pretty substantial damage upgrade, right? Now, Lauma's going to do more than what her signature weapon does. But, you can understand that the SIG weapon's a pretty big upgrade. Alright, now we're going to try Lauma. The literal only thing I've done is I swapped out Nahida for Lauma. And this is not like the best main DPS Columbina team for anything. I wanted to still show something that's like relatively accessible. Alright. And bap. Wow, suddenly it's like she's doing real main DPS numbers. We're doing 130k on each charge attack. Yeah, her damage goes up. So like that's what Lauma Burst does. Yep, for any Lunar Bloom talent damage. Let's show Proto Amber. Alright, pap. Burst on Lauma. E on you. Okay. Bam. Alright, and charge attack. You can see, yep, quite a bit less damage, but we're still doing plenty competent damage with Proto Amber with Lauma. You can definitely make do. And I don't know, I really like that this exists, by the way, even as someone who really enjoys playing Nefer. I really like that this exists because it's one of the main things that's fun about Dendro in the game is doing Dendro reactions. And having the ability to do Dendro reactions is cool. But this is one of those things that does, I think illustrate how, like, I don't think it's very hard at all to get fun value from Columbina if you like her. Like, I think most players who are considering pulling her would be able to enjoy her on some level. It's hard not to find a team that would be fun in some way. She has enough versatility to find some usage. But whether or not you would get value on her from a level of you want her to uplift the power level of your account is dependent, again, on having Lauma or Ineffa is my overall vibe. And I've tested a whole bunch of other stuff, by the way, that hasn't been shown in this video. So Columbina is in this kind of weird spot in my mind where, she is at her best pairing with one of the non-cry DPSs like Flins, Nefer, presumably Jibai when she comes out as well. But to some degree, the value that Columbina can provide those characters is more dependent on having Ineffa or Lauma in general. And then if you have Ineffa or Lauma, you kind of don't have as much need to have Nefer or Flins. I don't know, Columbina's got a weird kit balanced around other non-cry characters. If you have Ineffa and Lauma, you have a lot of team building options to make use of Columbina and make her feel very strong. If you don't have either of them, then you gotta go fishing more to figure out how you can have fun with her. But you can definitely have fun with her. So, I don't know. I like this character overall. That's Columbina in a nutshell. Feel free to subscribe. It was fun having early access. I plan to have way more yap in this video. I didn't even talk about our constellations. You want my vibe on our constellations? Don't get them. To be clear, C2 will uplift Columbina's damage a butt ton. You know what? Best thing about Columbina? I like the way her hair floats around as you move. It's kind of satisfying just watching her move as you yap around and let her float. Arguably 90% of my Genshin gameplay is just walking around the overworld while yapping. So anyways, bye-bye. Hope you enjoyed.